The feds did it yet again. They raised the interest rates 3/4 of a percentage point this past week. And are they killing the American dream to own a home? Well, I kind of feel like it's on its deathbed right now. These interest rates and the high prices, it's just making affordability worse. So let's talk about this today. What does this latest rate increase mean for home buyers and home sellers? Again, broken record. That's what I feel like. But we got to talk about it, guys. Let's get started. Well, here we are in November, and the Fed said earlier in this year they were going to be raising rates about 6 times this year. And yeah, they stuck to their promise. They've done it. Now, the whole point of it is to curb inflation. It's supposed to cool this hot housing market. But is it really doing its job? Is it really bringing the home prices down? I mean, we're not seeing prices drop that much. And you've heard me say this before. I don't think they're going to drop drastically. So this is really discouraging for home buyers right now. And yeah, I feel like it is killing the American dream. People want to own a home. They want to have their own piece of land, their own physical home to live. And it's getting more and more difficult. So let's talk about this. What does this mean with this latest rate increase? And then I'm going to share with you some tips of how are we going to combat this. If you need to buy a house, what should you be doing right now? The article that I'm talking about this week is from Bankrate, what the Fed's November rate hike means for home buyers and home sellers. Now, it starts off saying here that the hikes are designed to cool an economy that was on fire after rebounding from the coronavirus recession of 2020. That dramatic recovery has included a red-hot housing market, no kidding, characterized by record high home prices and microscopic levels of inventory. However, since late summer, the housing market has shown signs of cooling, with appreciation slowing nationally and prices even dropping in some markets. And home prices are driven not just by interest rates, but by a complicated mix of factors. So it's hard to predict exactly how the Fed's efforts will affect the housing market. Higher rates are challenging for both home buyers who have to cope with steeper monthly payments and sellers who could experience less demand and lower offers for their homes. The cumulative effect of this sharp rise in rates has cooled the housing market and caused the economy to start slowing, but it hasn't done much to lower inflation. You think? Now, this part of the article goes on to say how the Fed's raising the interest rates affects the mortgage rates. They don't directly affect the mortgage rates. This rise in interest rates, and people get confused by this, the Federal Reserve does not set the mortgage rates. So this rise in 3/4 of a percentage point does not mean the mortgage rates are going to go up 3/4 of a percentage point. The mortgage rates are in lockstep with the 10-year Treasury yield. But obviously that's affected by the Fed's raising the interest rates. So that's how the mortgage rates are determined, by the 10-year Treasury yield. And that's what the banks and mortgage brokers look at. So as we know, the mortgage rates do affect demand. They affect it a lot because now a lot of people are backing out. I just read the other day on the internet that the number of first-time home buyers is down to 26%. This is the lowest we've seen that amount in like 40 years or something like that. 26% of buyers right now are first-time home buyers. They're all walking away. They just can't afford it. It's so difficult right now to even think about buying a home for a lot of these people. But let's continue on with this article and see what else it says regarding the history of rising rates and how it's affected the housing market. Now that rates have surged higher than they've been in 2 decades, how will that affect home sales and prices? Mortgage rates remain above 7%, which has caused refinance activity to effectively stop and home purchase activity to slow markedly. Not only have sales slowed, but economists expect price declines of anywhere from a few percentage points to more than 20%. With the ones that are saying more than 20%, I think you're going to see that 20% decrease in the super overinflated markets like Austin, Colorado, Idaho was another one. Boise, Idaho was another overinflated market. I think that's where you're going to be seeing the big decreases, is like maybe up to 20%. Other markets, like they said, it's going to be a few percentage points. I think here in New Jersey, it's only going to decrease by about 5%. You're not going to see a huge drop in prices. So the article goes on to say, in the long term, home prices and home sales tend to be resilient to rising mortgage rates. That's because individual life events that prompt a home purchase, such as the birth of a child, marriage, a job change. It doesn't always correspond conveniently with mortgage rate cycles. So yeah, if somebody still needs to buy a house, you're going to pay this interest rate. It is what it is. If they need to get a home, that's what they're going to do. History bears this out. In the 1980s, mortgage rates soared as high as 18%, yet Americans still bought homes. In the 1990s, rates of 8% to 9% were common, and Americans continued snapping up homes. During the housing bubble of 2004 to 2007, get ready, mortgage rates were higher than they are today. What? Yes, rates were higher back then than they are today during that housing bubble. And prices still went up. So the article goes on to say that the current slowdown may be more of an overheated market's return to normalcy rather than the signal of an incipient crash. Where we heard this before? Normalcy? Oh, that's right. I talked about that. I said that videos ago that we're returning to a normal market. But the normal doesn't mean that the prices are going to come back down to what they were pre-pandemic. That is not going to happen. Normalcy means is that we're going back to the way things were as far as buyers having a little more leverage, being able to ask for items on a home inspection list. They're not going to have to waive the appraisal. They're not waiving inspections anymore. And home appreciation is going to appreciate at a normal pace, not like what we saw these past 2 years where they skyrocketed. So this is what people need to understand right now. It's not going to crash, I think, at all, unless the job market crashes. That's where we're going to get into trouble. But we're going back to normalcy, normal appreciation, normal process of buying and selling a home where negotiations are happening. You're not just walking in and offering the sun, moon, and stars to buy a person's home and just waive everything and just hope for the best when you buy it. That's not happening anymore. But as I keep saying, week after week after week, we're talking about this, the inventory is still really low. So that's what's keeping prices elevated in some markets, especially here in New Jersey. We're still seeing homes selling for over asking price. I have seen some price reductions. I am seeing it in some areas, and I'm sure those of you who are watching me right now and you live in different parts of the state, you may be seeing it in your area as well. But they're not coming down by that much. And any homes that are selling over asking, they're not going too high over asking. It's just not happening because now we have to worry about the appraisals. Now that the market has shifted, buyers are afraid of the house not appraising. So we are going to start going back to those days. So again, this is all return to normalcy. This isn't about prices crashing. It's normalcy. Is the American dream of home ownership dead? Well, it's probably, like I said, it's on his deathbed right now. It's like it's hanging there by a thread because of this current rise in interest rates. But let's look at the positive. Now, as soon as inflation starts to come back down, the mortgage rates should be able to come back down. And from what I've been reading, and I think I've said this in prior videos, that they're anticipating the rates to come back down over the next 12 to 18 months. So if you have to sit it out, I hate to say that's a long time, but you may have to sit it out and run something for a while. But if you have to buy, you have to get a house right now. There's just no way around it. You really need to do your research and shop the mortgage rates. Talk to the banks, talk to the credit unions, talk to your local mortgage lender, a mortgage broker, who will also do that research and try to find the best rates for you. That's the only way you're going to be able to work around this, is getting the best interest rate to keep your monthly payment lower. I'm going to say this again. You've heard me say it before. I will caution against those ARM loans, adjustable rate mortgages. I'm seeing a lot of people get them nowadays, and there's a lot of back and forth. People think it is a good thing. Some people don't think it's a good thing. They kind of worried me a little bit. I will caution against it, but do your research. Talk to a lender. Always see what the worst case scenario will be once you hit the end of that term, whether it be a 7-1 ARM or 10-1 ARM at the end of the 7 years. What does that payment look like if the rates are higher at the end of that term and you didn't refinance before the end of that term? All I can tell you right now is do your research, shop your rates, continue saving money, get a bigger down payment. I know. I feel like I'm really repeating myself, but
what is she talking about?
That's all I got. But I just want to reassure you, it is possible. You still can get a home right now. You just heard me read this with history. The history speaks for itself. Prices still rise even though mortgage rates go up too. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of comments and people debating me on that one, but look at the history. If you hold out now waiting for rates to come back down, you are risking the home prices to continue rising. So always do your research, talk to the professionals, and make a good educated decision. So I really love working with home buyers. They're like my favorite people. And so because of that, I made a huge list of videos right over here. If you're a home buyer, check it out. I think you'll really like it and you'll learn a lot from it. Thank you so much for watching me today and getting your dose of real estate reality. My name is Jackie Baker, and I will see you next time.